Who were these people? Who were these young men of 20-something that would come from all over the US to Thorpe Abbotts, to the southern part of England, which is always cold, even on a warm day. So this big melting pot saw southern states, which were really warm, send their men. They would tell us tales of how cold they found it, how green it was, and the miserable rain and the mud. And of course, further north, you get the northern states that would have a very, very similar climate to the UK, but would still find it cold. The winters here were not nice. And coupled with the fact that they were in Nissen huts or Quonset huts that were maybe ply-lined if they were lucky, and a small pot-bellied stove in the middle to keep them warm with some hideous wool blankets. Not very nice. So what did they do? What did they do when they were here? So this base, if you can imagine, over 600 acres, had all the amenities. This base lit up like a Christmas tree. Hot water, electricity. This is unheard of. This little village of Thorpe Abbotts that had the locals still getting water from a borehole, an outside toilet, and even gas or candles. And this base appears, this £1 million base built, would light up like a Christmas tree, and it fascinated them. And the locals would become intringent with these young men. They were young men away from home, a long way from home. So what did they do? Well, this base had all the amenities that you could hope for. It had tennis, it had a gym, it had a cinema, it had an airman's bar, an officer's bar, so there was always something to do. And of course, of a night time, they may well go on their push bikes, which there were many, to the local pubs, and they would regale the locals with stories of what they'd seen in their short life or what they were about to do. They would drink this cold beer, which it wasn't, it was very warm to them. They would drink the place dry. Sometimes they would get shortchanged, have an argument, and have a fight. Of course, with all these mix of people that came to this base, eventually all sorts of personalities would come out, right from the meek and mild American to the ones that actually quite didn't like the English. There was a pilot here who had a particular dislike to the English and everything that they stood for. Why are we here helping them? Why are we doing this? And this would manifest itself to the point where when he would go out for a drink, he would make it his mission to have a fight. I'll have a drink, I'll get a bit brave, and then I'll have a fight with whoever's in the vicinity. And this guy had so many fights that eventually they had to send the military police out with him to the pub because they knew that he was going to get in a fight. And they said, look, you get in a fight, fella, you go to jail. And this was this big mix and match of people who were thrown together, who had different opinions on everything. The meek and the mild. A lot of the guys here loved the English and would spend as much time as they could with the families that surrounded their base, because once their house was warm and their food was home cooked, and these guys were a long way from home. And of course, there were the men that stayed on base who weren't really interested in going off. These were religious men, it would be fair to say. It was a very 50-50 split. Some went off base, some decided to stay on base and whiled away their time writing letters and performing other duties on the base.